It was a scorching summer day in July 1984, in the quiet town of Millstone, Pennsylvania, a place where everyone knew everyone else, and the pace of life was slow. Emily Carter, 16, and her best friend Lisa Monroe, 15, had plans that seemed harmless at the time: to spend the afternoon exploring the outskirts of town and then catch the evening fair that was set up near the riverbank. The girls had always been inseparable, sharing secrets, dreams, and even fears. That day, however, something felt off. Neighbors later recalled an unusual hush in the air, like the town itself was holding its breath, though no one could explain why. Emily and Lisa left their homes mid-morning, backpacks slung over their shoulders, waving to friends and family as they walked down Oak Street. The local kids waved back, thinking it was just another summer adventure. But as the afternoon wore on, the girls never returned. At first, people assumed they were at a friend's house or had gotten caught up at the fair. Hours passed. By early evening, when the sun began to dip behind the old water tower, anxiety started to ripple through the town. Calls were made, and frantic parents began to gather at the last place anyone had seen the girls. The first search was immediate but chaotic. Volunteers combed the nearby woods, calling out the girls' names, shining flashlights into dense groves, and even checking the river's edge. Police officers joined, combing abandoned warehouses and empty barns, yet every trail seemed to vanish into thin air. Footprints were found in patches of dirt near the woods, but they led to nowhere, dissolving into overgrown grass or abruptly ending near the riverbank. No signs of struggle, no broken branches, no personal belongings left behind, just an eerie emptiness that made the townsfolk uneasy. Rumors began to spread almost immediately, twisting the day's events into stories that grew darker by the hour. Some said the girls had run away, though neither Emily nor Lisa had any history of disappearing before. Others whispered about strangers spotted near the edge of town in the days leading up to the disappearance, vans with tinted windows, and shadowy figures lurking near the fairground. Old-timers shook their heads, uneasy with the feeling that the town had been hiding something long before the girls vanished, as if their disappearance had triggered memories people had buried deep. By nightfall, the town was in panic. Police set up roadblocks and called neighboring towns for assistance. Families sat huddled in living rooms, staring at empty streets, unable to shake the image of the two girls laughing that morning. Local businesses closed early, and streetlights flickered over the silent town. Every minute that passed without news made the mystery heavier, the fear more palpable. As the darkness settled, a chilling realization took hold. Emily Carter and Lisa Monroe had disappeared without a trace, and Millstone would never feel quite the same again. Months turned into years, and despite every effort from law enforcement and the families, the trail of Emily Carter and Lisa Monroe went cold. Local police worked tirelessly, but as time passed, leads dried up, witnesses either moved away or forgot crucial details, and evidence seemed to evaporate into thin air. The girls' disappearance became a haunting shadow over Millstone, lingering in conversations but never in concrete answers. The town tried to move on, but parents warned their children not to wander too far, and even routine trips to the corner store carried an unspoken tension. By the late 1980s, the case had gained a reputation among true crime enthusiasts and amateur detectives as one of the most baffling disappearances in Pennsylvania history. Files were stacked in dusty drawers, photographs faded, and newspaper clippings yellowed with age. Occasionally, tips would arrive, a person claiming to have seen the girls in another state, or someone insisting they had heard whispers about a strange van. But none of these led to any breakthrough. Each dead end only deepened the mystery, cementing the story in the minds of locals as a cautionary tale of what could happen in even the safest towns. For the families, the pain never lessened. Emily's parents, John and Martha Carter, and Lisa's mother, Anne Monroe, lived every day with a gnawing uncertainty. Holidays were marked by empty chairs, birthdays remembered in silence, and countless nights spent scouring old maps, retracing the girls' last known steps, and hoping for a miracle that never came. Support groups offered some comfort, but the haunting feeling that something, or someone, had stolen the girls without leaving a trace never faded. The case became not just a police investigation, but a lifelong obsession for those left behind. The town itself began to change under the weight of the mystery. Residents whispered about the summer of '84 whenever newcomers asked, and local teenagers dared each other to sneak near the woods where the girls were last seen. Rumors of strange sightings and unexplainable noises at night became almost routine. Millstone, once known for its quiet charm, became a place where the past refused to stay buried, where every creak in the old mill or shadow behind the street lamp could trigger a shiver down the spine. The missing girls had become more than a case. They had become a part of the town's identity, an invisible scar no one could erase. Even as the decades passed, law enforcement never officially closed the file. Advances in technology, like DNA profiling and forensic imaging, offered hope, but the girls remained missing. Each passing year only amplified the sense of mystery. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, the questions piling higher than the answers. And as new generations grew up hearing the story, the legend of Emily and Lisa evolved, becoming a haunting tale of innocence lost, a puzzle with pieces scattered across time, waiting for someone brave enough to find them. It all started in early 2025, decades after the girls had vanished. A seemingly ordinary post appeared on a local online forum dedicated to unsolved mysteries, uploaded by a man named Harold Jenkins, a retired amateur photographer who had lived in Millstone his whole life. He claimed to have found an old, forgotten roll of film from the summer of 1984, tucked away in the back of his attic. At first glance, the images appeared mundane. Snapshots of the town fair, children playing, and families enjoying the hot summer day. But as viewers scrutinized one particular photograph, an unease began to spread. Something was off. In the background of the photo, partially obscured by the summer crowd, two figures could be seen standing slightly apart, their faces shadowed but unmistakably resembling Emily and Lisa. They weren't smiling, and their posture was stiff, almost as if they had been caught mid-motion, frozen in time. Even more chilling were the faint shapes behind them, blurry outlines that could have been adults, or maybe something far stranger, lurking in the shadows. The photograph was grainy, black and white, yet the composition made it impossible to ignore the subtle details. Viewers immediately noticed the eerie contrast. The fair's bright, cheerful atmosphere clashed with the girls' almost ghostly presence. Experts who examined the photo verified its authenticity. It hadn't been tampered with or enhanced digitally, and the timestamps confirmed it was indeed from the summer of 1984. This single image, seemingly innocuous for over 40 years, suddenly became a critical piece of evidence. Online forums erupted with speculation, and the post went viral almost overnight. Every detail was dissected: the positioning of the shadows, the angle of the girl's gaze, and even the faint outline of a small structure in the distant background. The community realized they were seeing something that the world had never noticed before, a snapshot of the moment before the disappearance. The townspeople were shaken. Harold Jenkins, the man who had posted the photo, began receiving phone calls and letters from former residents, some of whom had never spoken about the case in decades. Many described a strange déjà vu, recognizing corners of the fairground and the exact path the girls had taken that day. Others claimed they saw things in the photo they couldn't explain: figures peeking from behind trees, shadows that didn't belong to anyone present at the fair. Fear and curiosity collided, and suddenly, the quiet town of Millstone was once again gripped by the mystery of Emily and Lisa. Law enforcement also took notice. Detectives reopened the long-cold case with renewed vigor, now armed with a tangible clue that had been hidden in plain sight for over 4 decades. They began analyzing the photo frame by frame, hoping to identify familiar landmarks or perhaps even the faint silhouette of the person who might have taken the girls. Every detail became a potential lead: the tilt of a street lamp, the outline of the old mill in the distance, the shadows creeping along the trees. The single photograph, once considered a forgotten memory, now had the power to unravel decades of silence, bringing the town face to face with the chilling truth it had tried to bury. As the photo circulated online and law enforcement reopened the case, old memories began to resurface among the townspeople of Millstone, memories they had kept hidden for decades. People started recalling strange occurrences from the summer of 1984 that they had long dismissed. Some remembered seeing unfamiliar vans parked near the river, their windows tinted and the engines left running, as if someone had been watching the town. Others spoke of men lingering around the fairgrounds, men who didn't belong to Millstone, whose gazes seemed too sharp, too calculating. It was as if, for the first time in 40 years, the town's collective memory had been jolted awake. Stories of the girls' last hours were pieced together with chilling precision. Neighbors began recounting fleeting glimpses of Emily and Lisa walking toward the edge of the woods, where no one usually ventured. Some recalled a dark figure standing just beyond the tree line, watching silently as the girls laughed and chatted. There were whispers of arguments or heated conversations, though no one could recall with certainty who had been involved. These fragments, when strung together, painted a picture of a town brimming with secrets that had been buried along with the girls themselves. The investigation revealed that certain areas of Millstone, long considered abandoned, were more sinister than they appeared. Locals remembered rumors of hidden tunnels beneath the Old Town Mill, sealed off after a suspicious fire years earlier. Some claimed they had seen faint lights flickering inside at night, or heard voices carried by the wind. Others told stories of people disappearing temporarily, returning days later with strange expressions and refusing to speak of what they had seen. Suddenly, the disappearance of Emily and Lisa didn't feel like an isolated incident, but rather a small piece of a larger, more sinister puzzle. As detectives revisited these accounts, they discovered that a network of unusual activity had been quietly operating in Millstone for decades. Items reported missing from homes, strange deliveries at odd hours, and unexplained repairs to old buildings all pointed towards something hidden in plain sight. The photograph now acted as a key, connecting the dots in ways that had never been possible. Shadows in the image aligned with these old stories. A figure by the mill, an object half hidden behind a tree, suggesting that what had been dismissed as rumor might actually have been true all along. The townspeople's sense of safety began to unravel. Long-forgotten fears returned, and a palpable tension gripped Millstone once more. Parents kept their children close, warning them about areas of the woods that had always seemed innocent. Some residents swore they saw figures moving in the distance at night, and faint, unidentifiable sounds echoed across the fairgrounds where the girls had last been seen. The uncovering of these buried secrets created an atmosphere of unease, making it painfully clear that the events of 1984 were not just a tragic accident, but possibly the result of something far more deliberate and dangerous. With the mysterious photo as the new focal point, the reopened investigation took on a momentum that hadn't existed in decades. Detectives brought in forensic analysts and photo enhancement specialists, determined to extract every possible clue from the grainy black and white image. Using modern technology, they zoomed in on details that had gone unnoticed for over 40 years, faint shadows, blurred outlines, and even the subtle tilt of a building partially hidden behind the trees. Every element of the photo was scrutinized, as though the image itself was trying to reveal the long-buried truth. One of the first breakthroughs came when analysts identified a small, partially obscured structure in the distance. The building didn't appear in any recent maps, and town records indicated that it had been sealed off after a mysterious fire in the late 1970s. The alignment of the shadows in the photo suggested that Emily and Lisa had been walking toward that very location in their final hours. This revelation shocked investigators, who had previously assumed the girls had merely wandered into the woods. It now seemed likely that they had stumbled upon something, or someone, that they weren't supposed to see. Investigators began retracing the girls' steps with modern precision. Drone footage mapped the surrounding terrain, revealing hidden paths and overgrown trails that had long been forgotten. Along these routes, they found subtle clues that had eluded the original search teams. Faint shoe impressions pressed into hardened dirt, remnants of an old scarf caught on a tree branch, and even a small hand-carved marking etched into a fence post. Each discovery added weight to the chilling theory that Emily and Lisa's disappearance was not random, but orchestrated by someone who knew the area intimately. Meanwhile, tips from the public poured in as the photo went viral. Former residents who had long kept their memories quiet began coming forward with startling accounts. Some recalled seeing figures in dark coats near the town mill that summer, while others mentioned hearing screams or whispers carried from the woods. These accounts, when cross-referenced with the photo, painted a more complete and horrifying picture of what might have happened that day. The investigation, which had once felt hopeless, now had threads to follow, each one unraveling part of a decades-old secret that the town had tried to bury. As the detectives continued their work, the tension in Millstone grew. Residents reported strange lights flickering near the woods, unexplained noises echoed through the abandoned buildings, and even the familiar landmarks in the photo seemed to take on a menacing quality. The single image that had been tucked away in an attic for 41 years was now at the center of a terrifying puzzle. Every new clue seemed to point toward a deliberate and sinister plan, leaving the investigators with a chilling realization. The girl's disappearance may have been just the beginning of something much darker than anyone had ever imagined. For the first time in decades, witnesses began to come forward, breaking a silence that had lasted 41 years. Some were reluctant, their voices trembling as they recounted memories they had buried deep, fearing ridicule or danger. One elderly man, now in his 70s, claimed he had seen Emily and Lisa that fateful afternoon being led toward the river by a man in a dark coat. He described the way the girls seemed hesitant, their arms tightly around each other, while the figure in front of them moved with a controlled, almost mechanical precision. The man's confession sent shivers through the investigative team. Someone had been watching them that day, and it was no accident. Another witness, a woman who had been a teenager at the time, recalled the whispers. She spoke of a chilling scene near the Old Town Mill, faint voices, pleading and frightened, carried through the summer air. She couldn't make out what was being said, but she remembered the terror in the girl's eyes, visible even from a distance. These accounts, when pieced together, suggested that Emily and Lisa had been aware of a threat, that something or someone had been stalking them in the shadows. Each testimony added weight to the idea that their disappearance had been orchestrated, and not the random tragedy the town had assumed. As more witnesses came forward, a pattern emerged. Several people described seeing unfamiliar vehicles parked in odd locations near the woods or along deserted roads. One man remembered a van with tinted windows idling near the riverbank, doors slightly ajar, its presence so out of place that it had been instantly unsettling. Others recalled seeing a figure watching the fairground from a distance, always present but never interacting, a silent observer with intentions no one could fathom. These fragmented accounts, once scattered and dismissed, began to align with the photo's details, suggesting that the town had long been surrounded by danger hidden in plain sight. The investigators also discovered a few startling contradictions in past testimonies. Some original witnesses had given vague or misleading statements, likely out of fear, shame, or coercion. Now, with the renewed investigation and the photo as evidence, people began to speak more openly, revealing information that had been suppressed for decades. Small details, the direction of footsteps, a shadow moving across a wall, even the faint scent of smoke in the air, began to form a terrifying mosaic of events. Each recollection, no matter how minor, deepened the mystery and made the investigators realize the extent to which the girl's disappearance had been observed but hidden by fear. With these new testimonies, the case transformed from a decades-old cold file into a living, breathing investigation. Each witness painted a more vivid and terrifying picture. Two girls trapped in a nightmare, watched by unseen eyes, and led toward danger in broad daylight. The town, once seemingly innocent and quiet, now felt sinister, as if it had been harboring secrets far longer than anyone suspected. The photo, combined with decades-old memories resurfacing, created a haunting reality. Emily and Lisa's story was no longer just a disappearance. It was a warning, a chilling reminder that evil had lingered in Millstone, and that the truth might be far worse than anyone could imagine. The most shocking discovery came when the photo was analyzed alongside decades-old missing persons reports from surrounding states. Investigators noticed something that had been overlooked for years. A small object in the corner of the photo, barely visible, appeared to match items listed in police reports from neighboring towns. A single shoe, a tattered backpack, even a faint outline of a bicycle. Each detail hinted at a connection that was previously dismissed as coincidence. It was as if the girl's disappearance had been part of something much larger, a web of events stretching far beyond Millstone, and no one had realized it until now. Then came the forensic revelation that sent chills down everyone's spine. DNA analysts compared the faint traces of hair and fibers preserved from old police evidence with modern databases. One partial match emerged from remains discovered in a wooded area outside the town decades earlier. Though too decomposed for a full identification, the fragments bore striking resemblance to what Emily or Lisa could have worn that summer. This evidence, combined with the photograph and eyewitness testimonies, suggested a horrifying possibility. The girls may have been close enough to others to witness something they weren't supposed to, and their discovery had set off a chain of events that no one had survived. Even more disturbing were the subtle details lurking in the photograph itself. In the background, behind the trees and shadows, experts identified what looked like a figure observing the girls, small, indistinct, almost hidden, yet undeniably present. It wasn't just someone casually watching. The posture suggested intent, a patience that had spanned decades. Could this figure have been involved in their disappearance? Or worse, was this something supernatural, something that had allowed the girls to vanish so completely without a trace? The ambiguity added a layer of terror, leaving investigators and townspeople alike questioning everything they thought they knew. Further analysis of the photo revealed other anomalies. Shadows that didn't align with natural lighting, shapes that seemed to shift when the image was enhanced, and faint impressions of footsteps leading toward areas long abandoned. Experts suggested that the girls' movements and the positioning of these shadows could indicate they were being guided, or forced, somewhere. The unsettling thought emerged that the girls' disappearance had been methodical, deliberate, and premeditated, involving someone or something that had studied the town and waited for the perfect moment to strike. Every new layer of detail deepened the mystery, making it clear that the truth was far darker than the town could have imagined. As the revelations piled up, the town's collective unease transformed into fear. The photo, the witness accounts, the forgotten evidence. Together they painted a picture that no one could ignore. Emily and Lisa's disappearance was not an isolated tragedy. It was a calculated, chilling event with consequences that may have extended beyond the town, and possibly even beyond time itself. With each new discovery, it became increasingly apparent that Millstone had been hiding more than it realized, and that the terrifying reality of what happened to the girls might have been right in front of everyone's eyes all along, waiting to be uncovered. As the investigation continues and the pieces of the puzzle slowly fall into place, one haunting question remains. What really happened to Emily and Lisa? Was the photo simply a clue left behind by someone who knew? Or was it a glimpse into something far more sinister that has been hiding in plain sight all these years? The town of Millstone may never truly be the same, and the shadows of that summer of '84 continue to whisper their secrets. Even now, over 40 years later, the mystery lingers, leaving a town, a nation, and anyone who sees the photograph asking themselves, could something so ordinary hide such extraordinary terror? And as the years pass, will the truth finally come to light, or will Emily and Lisa's disappearance remain one of the most chilling, unsolved mysteries in American history? One thing is certain. Some shadows never fade, and some mysteries are far too dark to ever be fully uncovered.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.